So questions of any kind, please. Okay, here I just kind of rephrase the question in some way. First of all, in the kind of traditional Abhidharma, the kind of the Buddhist school of psychology, consciousness, when a mind and body appear, consciousness appears, because it is tied to the mind-body. And it has the nature to arise and pass away. So it's moving at phenomenal speed. So fast we think it's solid sometimes, you know? And as I said, there are really three things happening. There is the consciousness which kind of has made a connection, and that it actually, they say it also connects with association and memory, okay? But in its purity, it simply is there to take the information first from the sense door. So we have consciousness, we have a sense door, and then we have an object, you know. So it's like in seeing, if you see the room, you see a Buddha or a Tara, right? And the mind actually, in traditional meditative sense, one of my teachers had an eye, they used to say this, that one, he had a funny eye, one that looked out and one that looked in. What perfect, though, analogy. Because in essence, where you experience this Buddha is actually on the retina of your eye, actually upside down, but you know, this is where the wonders of mind-body are able to, in the brain, are able to flip that over, and then use it in a sense of association or memory, and which also then create the Vedana, the feeling base, you know, and that all. So the consciousness actually, but the consciousness from that is simply, like everything else, is rising and passing away. Okay? Now, that's pretty much where a lot of the Abhidharma, the Buddhist psychology, stops. And yet the experience, and this is really goes down more through the teachers, is that, you know, they talk about it as the signless. Is there's also, you know, it's like there with the knowing. You know, that there's something that is there, has been there all the time, and knows what it is that's occurring. Does that actually, it changes due to the causes and conditions, but it's always it's always the same, you know? And it's that awareness that I was referring to, that the difference between the consciousness, which is a relative reality that's all dependent on the mind-body, and then there's something, the awareness that knows, you know. And that awareness, you know, as Ajahn Mahabua said, it blankets everything, you know. And the danger in this, huge danger, I mean, you think in Tibet there was a huge kind of split because they had taken that awareness and solidified it and made it into something. And as soon as you make it into something, then there's the tendency to deify it, and therefore you've taken it out of context, you know. And so actually the Dalai Lama sect it actually, as the Tsongkhapa was the reformer, and what he reformed was actually tried to go back to the early kind of rules and regs of the kind of of early Buddhism, and also he just said that he took that sense of solidification that happened and deification that happened and said it's just emptiness, you know. And I know that may not translate to us so much. I understand that. But as I said, you could also say it also translates as infinite potential, you know. And so there's always this infinite potential. And but there's the knowing of it, you know. And that's essentially what I was trying to refer to as the contrast between the awareness and the kind of the Buddhist psychology of really of dependent origination, you know. We can't answer that question.
Exactly.
You cannot answer that question.
That we would.
This is because it only arises in the moment, known in the moment. We project on it, thinking, oh, well, maybe it's permanent. It just goes from, you know, maybe it's always, and maybe it's always there. Maybe it's just, you know, in the kind of definitions of Tibetan schools, they get so into this stuff. Well, you know, if you were, I mean, it's pretty cold and everything, but, but you know, I mean, you know, if 8, 9 months you really couldn't move around much, what are you going to do? You know, you're going to kind of think up these things. But anyway, to solidify it in some way. And so we can't know. It's just like I said, we can't, you know, like everybody's trying to figure out what happens when you die, right? Everybody wants to know, you know? Or that's one of the great inquiries or speculations. But it is a speculation. And it's also true in this, you know. It's a speculation. Does, you know, as I say, in the Tibetan school, there's one school, and it's really the mind-only school. And that can actually say that it's, you know, we're connected all to one mind, and that consciousness, the awareness, let's differentiate here. The awareness is one awareness, you know, and our job is to break down our individual proclivity towards self-identification and go towards that one mind or one awareness. Well,
Before consciousness.
I don't even know that. All I know is what I know, which, you know, this is, one of my teachers said, only teach what you've experienced, you know? And so that leaves me a little bit dumbfounded, you know, because, you know, I can also speculate, you know, but I do understand the kind of the what they call the 6 gates, or the doorways of the senses and the mind. And I can recognize that I get caught in external, whether it's the sound of the bell, or whether it's the sight of a Buddha, or the sight of you, or whatever. Those are external things, you know. Can I keep, I mean, this was one of the trainings I had to go through, was I had a tendency to abandon myself for the sight objects. You follow? And I would just abandon myself over and over. And then I started to realize, oh, you know, can I actually be where my experience is happening? My experience is happening actually as it's a body experience in the sense of where it's experienced, you know? And so then I loosen my grip or attachment to the objects of sight, you know. I hope that's helpful. That's, you know, because actually you want to loosen.
And answered the part of the question you could
Yeah.
answer,
to everything.
which was perfect.
Okay, well, good.